Hi everybody, I just wanted to introduce myself before you actually see the tutorial that I've done. My name is Corinne and I am the owner of Corinne Thorne Glass Artist Company, and I hand make fused glass jewellery. I incorporate it with silver, I make memorial jewellery, and I also make wedding jewellery. The reason for the tutorial is that I've been doing glass making with a microwave kiln for over 17 years, and when I started out there was nothing, absolutely nothing out there. For people starting now, I think you're really at an advantage because you have a lot of people that have been making items of beautiful glass in a microwave kiln for a number of years, and they're really happy to share the information that they've learned and their experiences. So for that reason, I've created a tutorial, and it basically shows you how I've made a piece of jewellery, which is a pendant, going right from the beginning, choosing the glass, to actually seeing the final piece. You will also be able to go onto my website, and if you subscribe, I will arrange to send you notifications of any new tutorials that come up. So my website is www.corinthorne.co.uk, and you'll be able to see that at the end of this video as well. So enjoy the tutorial, and I will catch you all later. Thanks very much for watching. Bye. Hi everybody. On the back of one of my competitions that I ran, which was choose 3 colours and I'll make you something in those 3 colours, I had a winner. However, 2 of the people that entered the competition have asked me to actually make them something anyway. One of the people asked for these 3 colours, so that's mink opal, opal pink, but this one's got a little bit of white put through it, and green. The other person has asked for cinnabar, pumpkin orange, and marzipan. Now the pumpkin orange and marzipan are strikers, which means that when they are fired, depending on the temperature they reach, they will turn to slightly different shades of the colours that they begin at. So it'll be really interesting to see what actual tone we can get from those. In case you don't know, when you're making a piece of glass, whether you're fusing one little piece or you're layering pieces up, your glass, when it's fully fused, will always want to be 6 millimeters thick. A little bit of physics. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm using these 3 colours and I'll be using little parts of them, I'm going to start with a 3 millimeter base of clear and layer that with various parts of these colours and some white. The white offcuts that I've got that I'm just using to, one, enhance the contrast between all of the 3 colours that these people have chosen, but also it helps to bring the level up so that I know that the actual piece of glass is not going to change shape too much when it's melted, because I'm going to try and keep it at roughly 6 millimeters thick to start with. If I'd layered a piece that's 3 millimeters, what will happen is that glass will draw itself in as it heats to bring itself up to 6 millimeters. What can happen in that instance is that it will take with it all of the paper that you put on the bottom to stop it sticking to the kiln and draw that up with it, so you end up with a bit of a messy edge. If I layered up more than 6 mil, so say 2 mil, 3 mil and another 3 mil, as that melts it's going to spread out, meaning it will change shape, change size to get down to that 6 mil. So for what I'm doing today, the closer I can be to 6 mil to start with, the more chance I've got of retaining the design that I've wanted to set out with. So the first one that I'm actually going to do is going to be this sort of size. I will make a couple of different pieces for each of the ladies, purely because it's really nice to be able to choose which one you like, because they're always going to come out different, even if you do them at exactly the same time with all the same colours. So I'm going to start off with this one, and this is just shy, let's have a look. So this is what, 2.5 centimetres square, and then I've got the mink, the pink and the green. So what I'm going to do is start by cutting up a few pieces of each of these three colours. To do that, I'm going to need a cutter, and there's a couple of different types of cutters you can get. This one you hold like a pencil. I do have another cutter which I will show you at another time, and it's called a pistol grip cutter, and it's got this piece here and then it comes down, so you can hold it and push down on it, which is really, really good if you struggle putting too much pressure on something when you're holding it like a pencil. The other thing I'm going to use are Grosiers and Grosier pliers. These have got two sides to them. You've got a straight edge and then a curved edge. When you're cutting the glass and then breaking the glass, this acts like a second hand and gives you that extra pressure to be able to break it. You're going to see me doing that when I've made my first cut. The other tool, which I think is absolutely brilliant, you can buy them really cheaply, are mosaic nippers. You've got two wheels, and both of these wheels, what they will do is you place your piece of glass between them and you literally put pressure on the handle and squeeze, and you will get little pieces of glass. You can cut tiny weeny little pieces of glass, or it's really good when you're actually trying to cut something really thick. So the glass slabs that I make, that I cut into pieces to then refire to make pendants and earrings, I use these because they really do give you some power. But again, as I say, they're relatively cheap to buy, but I find them invaluable. So before I start cutting, I'm just going to remind you that glass is sharp. Ouchie, purely from catching my arm while trying to reach for something else, because I have my stuff kind of organised, but an organised chaos. So if you can keep yourself tidy, all the better. When you're cutting a piece of glass, you'll notice on here there's a little wheel. Now this has oil inside, and it keeps that wheel running really nicely and helps you to score your glass. So that's what you're going to be doing when you're cutting it. You're scoring the surface to create a weak point where the glass will then easily break. So this has got a little wheel, but you'll also see that there's a distance between the edge and the wheel. So you need to take that into account, especially if you're actually measuring something very accurately. You need to make sure that you account for that little extra area there. Today I'm not too worried about that, purely because I'm literally going to cut a few of these pieces of the different glass so that I can use those in a random way for the pendants I'm making today. So this is the mink, and this is bullseye glass, and it's COE 90. I always use 90, always have done in the last sort of 17 odd years, and I've never sort of varied any of the glass that I use in that way, because I know if I had two types of glass that weren't compatible together, I can guarantee I would mix them all up and end up with quite a few disasters. So I stick with COE 90, and that's bullseye, and I get most of it from a company called Warm Glass in Bristol, which is the most local glass supplier to me, and I really do like to purchase items that are actually from local suppliers. So what I'm doing is, you can hopefully see that I'm actually holding this like a pencil. Now, everybody cuts in different ways. I don't know if there's a wrong way or a right way, but I find when you're being creative, you tend to find your own way. So some people go down and some people go across. I tend to go down, and you're basically putting the little wheel just by the edge of the glass you're cutting, and you're pushing down, and you will hear that noise. Now, it's not always an amazing noise. Some people really don't like it. It's like nails down blackboard. I'm kind of used to it, and actually I quite enjoy it. There must be something wrong with me. But anyway, so I've made my score. Now you'll notice on here that I didn't put enough pressure on the whole piece of the glass, so I've got a little section there where it's not completely scored. So I won't go over that, because if you go over it and you go off slightly, you're still going to end up with a difficult break and quite a jagged edge. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. Now, one of the tricks that one of my friends told me, and especially as most of us work from home, and the last thing you want are shards of glass all over the place. Thank you, Leslie. Basically, this is a folder sleeve. You can use a bag, as long as you can see what you're doing. You want to be able to use something that will capture any tiny weeny pieces of glass that happen to shoot off, because especially when you're snapping the glass or breaking the glass, you are always going to end up with tiny weeny shards. You might not be able to see them, but you'll certainly feel them when they're all over your working space. And if you're anything like me, rest your arms down and you end up with all these tiny weeny little pieces of glass stuck in your arms. That in itself is not fun. So we're going to go and break this piece of glass now, and you can see here I've got my croziers. So the curved part is going to go on the underside of the glass. Now I've put it inside here, and I really should have just shown you this first. So this is my score line. I'm going to put the flat part of these on the top up to the line there, so that on the underside I've got the curved edge. Now when you're breaking it, you are literally doing this. It's almost like it's an extension of your hands. So you want to keep a grip, put it down into the bag, again to stop all those shards. Now some people just pull the glass apart. Some people, like myself, bend it slightly. It's entirely up to how you do it. I find with the thinner pieces it works either way, but with the thicker pieces it can be a little bit difficult to actually get a really good clean break when you just pull on it. So hopefully this is going to work and I'm not going to end up with lots of little broken pieces. So let's have a go. So pliers on, glass breaking, and there's a little piece there, and this is the mink, which is going to go with this beautiful pink and green in whichever way and design I actually decide to do it. One little note that I would really suggest, that as I say, I've been doing this over 17 years, and one of the worst things or things that I'm worse at doing is that I do not make a note of what glass I use. I start making a note and then I get all excited, make loads of stuff, and then I'm like, what did I use? So if you get the opportunity, just get yourself a little pad or something and make a note of what you're using, or take a photo of the final piece and a photo of the glass you used, just so that you know for reference what it was that you started out with to create something. Because there's nothing worse than making something, thinking, oh, that is absolutely amazing, and then going, I didn't really take a note of what glass I used, and getting really annoyed with yourself. So if I can give you one bit of kind of administration advice, it's keep a note of the glass that you use. So I've gone ahead and I've actually cut a little bit of the pink and a little bit of the green. I'm using, it doesn't really matter that I'm using kind of the jaggedy ends of a piece of glass I've already used in the past. The reason being is because I'm now going to sort of break this up with the nippers and use lots of little pieces so that I can mix those colours up and around in the pendant design. So I've got my nippers. I'm going to start with the pink piece, and again in the bag, all I'm going to do is hold it from the outside and do lots and lots of little cuts with the nippers, breaking up that glass. I'll keep some bigger pieces as well so that I can layer other colours up on top of them, and we'll see how that goes. But so see how quick that was with the nippers, no cuts, no bits of glass shooting off all over the place, and now I've got a nice little selection of random pieces of pink. So I'm just going to do that with the other two colours. Now the mink colour is only 2mm thick in comparison to the other pieces of glass that are 3mm thick. So what's actually happened is when I put the mosaic nippers on, you can see there's a gap in the middle, which means when I try and squeeze it together, it's not actually cutting every single piece that I'm trying. So I'm going to go back to using the cutter and just scoring a couple of little places so that I can make some smaller pieces. And again, back into your bag got your pliers, and I'm just going to, if you can see this, break some little pieces off using these instead. So again, I've just got a few little random shapes and sizes, and as we're going I can actually cut some extra pieces up if I want to, smaller little pieces, so that I can work out exactly what I want. I'm not really planning these, and the reason being is because I really love that organic kind of feel you get when you're creating something and just letting the glass colours and that guide you. So this is what we're going to start with, and we're going to now turn these random pieces of glass and the beautiful three colours that my customer chose and make something very pretty. Prior to actually putting the piece of glass, when I've layered it all up, into the kiln, just to keep things a little bit more secure, I use just very basic super glue. People use hairspray. Another thing that I normally use is something called glass tack, which you can get from Warm Glass, and it's specifically for holding pieces of glass in place. The reason I use the super glue is I've just got very used to using it. I can use a tiny amount and it just keeps everything really, really secure. What you don't want to do is overload it with super glue. The worst thing that's going to happen is that when you put it into your kiln, you're going to hear a little poof sound as the super glue catches fire, and you'll want to rush to it, take it out and have a bit of a panic. If that ever happens, don't do that. Just keep it going, keep the kiln going, because what happens is the glue burns off completely and your little fire will go out and it's all contained within it. However, the best way to not have to deal with that is to not put any or too much glue on in the first place. So I'm literally just going to use the super glue when I've decided where I'm placing everything on the glass. Now, these colours are wonderful because they really do contrast against each other. So I'm just going to have a look at a couple of ideas first to see where I want to put everything. So as you can see, I'm just literally going to layer up a few of these colours just to see what they look like. And I want to try and keep them so that they are kind of not necessarily next to each other, but it doesn't really matter how you layer it up. It's entirely up to you. So I'm quite happy that, yeah, that's quite a good base for me to start with, and then I'll start putting the other colours over each other. So I'm just going to take that off, pop tiny weeny when it comes out, little piece. Come on, super glue. Little tiny pieces of super glue. This is what happens when you get a gel super glue. It's really good because you can control it, but it takes a little bit of time to get it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4 little dollops of super glue. I'm just going to put the mink, the pink, the green, and the pink. Now don't worry about the gaps because I'm actually going to fill those with other little pieces of glass so that we get a little mixture of what we're doing. And like I said to you, I am actually going to use a few little pieces of white because I think it's really lovely having the three colours, but I also really like it when it's mixed in with a little piece of white to give it some borders and things like that. So again, in with the nippers, just going to break up some of this white. See, quick, lovely. These would be one of the best tools that you ever invest in. So in here, I'm just going to pop some little pieces of white. Now you remember when I said to you about the 6mm high? So when you're looking at this base is 3mm, this one is 3mm, this mink is 2mm, so it's higher this side than this side, which can make for when it melts to create an uneven shape because this side won't spread as much, this side might pull in a little bit. So I'm going to try and even it up across the design. but I am fully fusing this, which means that it's going to be in the kiln and melt long enough that the whole thing will just become one, and you'll find that the edges and everything will all smooth out. So if you're slightly out, it's not major. It's just nice and looks nicer if you've really thought about how thick you're starting off with to what design you're going to get at the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a few of these little pieces in here. So all I've done is I've just created the first layer, so you've got, or your second layer, so you've got the clear on the bottom. The reason I use clear is because it's more economical. When you're covering the base up, it makes no difference what colour you use. And the Tecta clear glass is very economical for this. So I've used that on the bottom, and then as you can see, I've just done a very basic layer of the three colours plus the little bit of white. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and glue some other little pieces on top so that I can actually break those colours up and get those three colours in there nicely. Okay, so this is what I've now got. I've literally taken lots of little pieces and have layered it up. Now, you remember that I said that I was going to start off with a piece that was no more than 6mm. And as I've become a little bit more creative and choosing where my colours are going to go, you can see that I've actually gone higher. Now, this is what we call a puddle. So basically you start off with a small piece, bigger, 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 until you get to your base piece. And as that melts, the top piece melts into the second into the third, and so on. So you can end up with lots of rings, almost like a target. So that is probably what's going to happen with that section there. But because these are so tiny, when they melt down, it's not a major issue that they are more than 6mm in height, because it may, or it will, spread out ever so slightly. But again, it's just not going to be a massive problem. It's not going to make it huge. I will do some videos where I'm extremely accurate with the sizings and the 6mm rule, but for this pendant that I'm making at the moment, I just wanted to get as many of the different colours in there as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort out my kiln so that this is ready to be fired. So I have 3 sizes of kilns at the moment, the 3 that you can get in the UK anyway. I believe there is a 4th size, but I'm not even sure if it would fit in my microwave. But this is the smallest of the 3 that I have. And this one is approximately, what, 4 3/4 inches across. So you're looking at about 11.5, nearly 12 centimetres. And your firing surface again is about 2.5 inches across, so about 6.5 centimeters for your firing area. When you're making your glass, you really need to remember and think about the fact that this is the only area that you are allowed to kind of put your glass on, because if your glass overlaps at all, it's going to actually hit the inside of your kiln. And this is the surface area that heats up remarkably well and causes your glass to become molten. If you get your glass stuck on here or on here, you do run a risk of ruining your kiln. I've done it many times, and thankfully my kilns still work okay. You just kind of adjust your settings or your timings. But you really want to try and avoid getting any molten glass on any area of your kiln. So you can see a little crack in mine. It doesn't seem to affect how it works, so I'm not overly worried about it until the whole thing breaks in half, and then it will just make a really nice ornament somewhere in the house. But anyway, when you buy your kiln, you will get this. You'll probably get a few squares of it, and this is fibre paper. This is really good for your first tries and things like that, but what you will find is that the base of your glass, when you take it off, will have maybe some of this embedded in it. It will be quite rough, and if you don't get rid of that, it can be quite irritable on the skin when you wear it. So I will always suggest, there are other papers out there, but I always suggest purchasing Bullseye thin fire paper. And what I do is I place a piece of the fibre paper down, and then a cut to size piece of the thin fire. And what happens with that, this is to stop your molten piece of glass ending up touching any of your kiln. You can do that, cover the whole surface, it doesn't matter. I've just literally cut these pieces from to kind of fit what I'm doing today. This paper here, what will happen is when you put it in your kiln, you will start to smell fumes a little bit, and what that's doing is it's actually the paper within it that's burning off, and it will start off as a solid white piece of paper. It will go brown, then it will go black, and then when you're fully fused your piece, it will return back to white. Now when it goes back to white, it's actually a powder that's left behind. That's why it's really, really important to be wearing a mask or anything like that when you're handling it, because the last thing you want to do is be breathing that in. So, you know, the safety side of all of this is, you know, glass is sharp. Don't breathe anything in that you don't want in your lungs. You should wear gloves when you're handling your kiln, because although the inside is what heats up, the outside can become very, very warm. So always, I would always suggest using gloves. If you want to use gloves while you're cutting the glass, that's entirely up to you. I tend not to, because I get in a bit of a pickle and I've got fat enough fingers that put a pair of gloves on there and I'm just like, I can't handle anything, I can't hold anything. But from a safety point of view, I am suggesting that you wear gloves, wear a mask. It's just to keep you safe. So on here, I've got my fibre paper, my thin fire paper, and we're going to take the little design that I've made and I'm going to place it as central as I possibly can. Now I've been doing this long enough to know that when this melts, it's not going to spread out any further than my kiln. But when you're starting, I would suggest trying to keep your piece as close to 6mm as you can, so that you can practice how far out you see the glass spreading and knowing your limits to the size of what you can put in your kiln without causing any damage. This is the microwave that I use. This one is a 700-watt microwave. I've had it for about 12 years and cost me, I think, about £10. I've had a 1000-watt microwave, 800-watt microwave, and I've used this one for, like I say, sort of 12 odd years. I really like the 700-watt microwave. Now, the reason being is when you're fusing your glass and you have a little peep and you see where it's at and you think, I want it to go a little bit further, then 30 seconds, even 10 seconds can make such a difference in that timing and the result that you're going to get. So with the 700 watt, I actually feel that I have a little bit more control. Now, I'm not saying a 1000 watt or an 800 watt is not going to be great for you, because everyone kind of gets their own feel for what works for them. So don't be put off by getting a higher wattage microwave. Now, obviously, with the microwave kiln, you don't have any temperature gauges. You don't have a program that you can just pop in and it does it all for you. Everything you're doing is basically using the timer on the microwave, the temperature on the microwave, and also then your experience looking at the glass, seeing how far it's gone, have you done it enough to decide whether it's actually fully fused or not. It's all going to be, as I say, from your experience. So with my microwave, as I said, it's a 700 watt, but when I'm using this really small kiln, I very rarely use the maximum. I literally tend to use the 300 and the 500. So with this one, I've got inside my microwave some little blocks. Now, these are ceramic blocks. She came with these. I don't believe they do anymore, but you can obtain from places online ceramic kiln blocks or other items that you can use. And what this does is this raises your kiln off of the surface of your glass turntable. So it allows the heat to come through. Now, some people take the turntable out. I have always kept my turntable in. Now, the reason that is when you're actually heating something in a microwave, you want to heat it as equally as possible or as evenly as possible. And to do that, the whole kiln needs to move about so that that heat actually generates, as I say, equally throughout your fire. So as I say, I don't ever take the turntable out. Some people advise you to, and that's entirely up to them, but I keep mine in. So I'm just going to put my little blocks back in, and then I'm going to position the kiln that I put that pendant into, or the glass into earlier, and start it up. So the kiln is inside, and what I do with my microwave is I start off really slowly on the slowest temperature or lowest temperature. The reason for that is when you're working with glass, you don't want to inject sudden bursts of high heat because you risk your glass cracking. And that all that design time that you've just spent, you've basically just ruined. So take it slow. There is no rush. Ultimately, you want to come out with something that you really like. So I start off really slowly at 350, and I put that on for 4 minutes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make you watch 4 minutes of my microwave going round because no one really enjoys that. So we'll be back in a moment to see at what stage it's at. Now I'm going to attempt to show you what it looks like at the moment. So this has been on for 4 minutes at 350, and then I did 4 minutes at 500. And although that was a quick snippet of a view, it's so hot that I don't want to touch it for too long, but I also don't want the air to rush in, hit my piece of glass and risk that thermal shock where the surface cools and the inside is still molten and the surface actually cracks. Sorry, just hit the camera, because that again ruins your whole piece that you've just spent ages designing. So I've just brought the kiln over, and I've rested it on my cooker because that's where I actually leave my kilns to cool, because I've got the rack and the metal surrounding, so it's really safe. You can actually see from the centre this red spot, that is the molten glass. Now you need to be wearing protective eye gear basically if you're going to be looking at molten glass. The reason for this is it's no different to looking at the sun. And when, you know, you look at a solar eclipse, you're not meant to look at a solar eclipse. And the reason being is it can do permanent damage to your eyes. So over a period of time, that's the same sort of thing that's going to happen. So I will make a list for you so that you know about all the safety sort of precautions you need to take. You can actually see already how it's cooling down. And I'm just going to leave that there. So I've taken the kiln out of the microwave when it was done, as you saw, and I've left it on the cooker. Now I leave mine to cool until they are completely cool. I don't risk taking it out when it's still hot because I don't want anything to affect the final piece. So again, if it's taken out too early, you do risk it cracking. I also don't want to burn my fingers. So this is the final piece that I made. And you can see it's got those greens, the pinks and the mink in there. It's also really shiny, and that's the great thing about the microwave kiln as well, is that when your glass comes out, it's actually really shiny. So I'd say that was pretty successful. The shape could have been better, but again, that was because I had different levels of glass in one place, so it's actually made it a bit of an odd shape. But again, that comes with practice, accuracy and concentration. But all in all, if you've ended up with something like this, I think you'd be pretty happy. So that's the final one. So the next stage really is to turn it into a wearable piece of jewellery. And here is the final pendant. So I've glued a silver plated bail onto it and threaded it through on a black cord, which I think looks really lovely with glass jewellery. But you can dress them up, dress them down, pop it on a chain. It actually changes the way it does look. But that's the final finished piece. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have, then please just subscribe to my YouTube channel And if you would like to subscribe to my website email mailing list, I can keep you up to date on what tutorials are going to be on. If you've got any questions, feel free to message me. Thanks ever so much for taking the time to watch. Take care. Bye.